Live streaming randomly. Here we go. Wait for people to pop into the chat. So today, I'm going to talk a little bit about this crazy project which I'm doing, which I didn't realize was only, it's only been 3 days, or 4 days now since I came up with this idea. And I have here this 21 pages is the 588 superpowers which are going to be included in the system. 588 separate and distinct super abilities. Hey! Hello, everybody. Hey, Whit. Hey, Brent. Hey, Jet. Hey, Conrad. Hey, Carlos. Hey, Devious Dungeons Painting. How's it going? So the Super Atomic project is, in a nutshell, this is separate from the Godforge book, which I'm going to be writing and kickstartering. I don't know when the Kickstarter and stuff for that is going to take place. It's part of a publishing group, so I'm waiting for confirmation and everything's being settled about who's doing their Kickstarter first, sort of thing, because we're working in concert with each other. So I barely even started writing Godforged, and that's going to be based on the Monsters rule set, basically unaltered but with extra stuff added, which is based on the original Tunnels and Trolls RPG from way back when it was the second RPG ever produced in the United States and sold. Yeah, so the Super Atomic is my answer, because I wanted to do something open source with this whole OGL thing. And I wanted to do it in a medium that could not be contested by Wizards of the Coast and Hasbro, like to show them that we in our community can do something that they cannot do, they can't compete with, and that is release a quality, completely free and open source product for everyone to use. And the only way I could figure to do that was to do it using the medium that I use for communicating my writing. So I'm a writer, but I write scripts for YouTube videos. So you could say I'm an audio writer. So I don't generally write print products, and I don't kickstart books and stuff, and I don't produce third-party content for the RPG, you know, like people have been screaming at me to do for a long time. I don't. I produce videos. That's what I do. That's my income. So I'm a writer of YouTube videos. And so I thought, well, if I'm going to write a RPG, why don't I write it as a YouTube video, as a referenceable YouTube video work? And I get everybody in the community to just basically do voice recordings for the sections of that particular bit of the game, and then that goes into that bit of the video. So when you start the video, it will show you an index screen that will run for something like 30 seconds or a minute or so, which has all the different chapter headings, and it directs you to go to the description down below, and that's where all the timestamps for all the different chapters of the book are. So you just click on that, it takes you directly to the rules section that you're looking for, or the information section that you're looking for, or the separate video, which has got all of the superpowers listing. So 588 superpowers described by me, one after the other, carefully timestamped, so you can go to directly where you need to go. And this case in point was the Faiths and Clerics and Faiths of the Forgotten Realms video was a perfect example of how that sort of reference video can work. And I looked at the metrics of it, and it's got very clear indications on there where people are skipping straight to the timestamp of that particular religion and God that I'm talking about, because that's what they're interested in learning about, not the rest of the video. So people don't watch the entire hour-long video. They just watch the section that they're interested in and then click away. That's perfect. That's exactly the sort of content that I want to produce, which is a reference library of information that people can easily access anywhere in the world that they've got access to YouTube, or they can download that video and use it themselves for whatever. So because this is an open source project that is not for profit and it's for everybody to contribute to, I'm not going to be putting any promotion or any ad slots or anything on there. I'm not going to earn any money out of it at all. So all of this work that I'm putting into it is just my gift to you. And it's also a test case for, like, so it's me practicing making an RPG for when I get started on doing Godforge. So the rule system is even simpler. It basically just uses 2d6. It's a d6 based system, and I've got a little description here of how it works. So I'll just read this statement if you guys don't mind. Superhero campaign. Yeah. Hey everyone. Ghost Pants. Annie Dev. Lots of people I haven't seen before in here. Nice to see you. Nice to see you. Might just be that I'm at it's a strange time of the day. Oh, Jam the Use, I recognize you. Hey, how's it going? Okay, so I'm just going to read this here. Criminally sexy pangolins. What a strange thing to say. Okay, so what is the Super Atomic RPG I'm working on? Here are the facts. First, most importantly, I'm doing this and making monster ecology lore, short story videos, content that you normally see on my channel as per always. Rest assured, it's just been a crazy month this month, obviously with lots of disruptions, and it's been very disheartening figuring out what to make videos about and everything. And I've been helping out a lot of people in the background, other YouTube creators and content creators. So it's been busy. And also this project has just sort of taken over my life temporarily. Second, plans for the Godforge Science Fantasy Gaming book are 100% underway and progress is good. There will be a Kickstarter sometime this year for it. I've signed a license with Trollhala Press, and Godforge uses Monsters game system, which is compatible with Tunnels and Trolls, first indie RPG published in the States, for as far as anybody knows. So this is this super atomic thing. I was browsing Twitter one fine morning when I stumbled upon the perfect character sheet created by @TheBasicExpert1 on Twitter, and I immediately wanted to make a superhero-themed game using that character sheet design. The Basic Expert is already on their second printing of Atomic Punk 2160, a post-apocalyptic atom punk old-school revival role-playing game, which is like an old AD&D rule system, sort of, well, original D&D sort of system. Like you see Dungeon Crawl classics and stuff like that. It's just been adapted to a post-apocalyptic sort of setting. And so I have no conflict of interest there. Although I'm using the same words, atomic, for the attributes, there's nothing else in common with our systems. It uses totally different dice pool and everything. So I set to work determining what I wanted to host, how I wanted to host this game online, at free and open source for everyone to use. It would include a kind of a comic book super character, I think of, and have straightforward rules and mainly just descriptions that define what characters can do. So you've only got two types of checks that you use. Both are based on a 2d6 with an exploding dice mechanic. And all of the powers and stuff are arranged in tiers. So much like Marvel's old phase rip system, you'd be able to say, oh, that's incredible tier, or that's amazing tier, and you'd know how many d6, or you could just say it's level 1, level 2, level 3, level 4, level 5, level 6, indicating how many d6 are added to your dice pool from that power. But much like Magic, the Mage, the Vampire the Masquerade, and Mage the Ascension, and those sort of games, the power level also implies the range of different abilities that power level can do. Like somebody who can run at incredible speed can run the same sort of speed as a cheetah, but they can't do things like dodge bullets, you know. But somebody who's running at super speed can do things like have multiple actions along a path, and stop on a dime and punch, you know, so fast that they can punch straight through a car door, have super toughness and stuff involved, because at that level of power you must have a nigh invulnerable skin for being able to take impacts. You need to have extreme, you know, impact resistance, be able to breathe without like very refined air and stuff like that, because running at Mach 1, there's other super abilities you must have, otherwise you will be absolutely pulverized by that. So it's not just a matter of having super speed, you must also be super tough. So that makes sense, right? Hey, James. Nice. I'm going through my backlog. So I described a little bit about the combat system. So, or not the combat system, the way that it works. And a lot of people who I've said, oh, do you mind if I just, you know, send you a little bit of script here and you record it and then send it back to me and I'll put it on this free video for everybody, have said, sure. So if you are a content creator, or just somebody with a good voice, get in contact with me and I'll throw you in here absolutely for sure, because people get sick and tired of hearing my voice through the entire thing, I'm sure. So I want somebody to help me out with the 588 superpowers descriptions, for instance. So I set to work and determined that I wanted to host it online as a video. And the combat and tunnels of the trolls is just you're adding your attack total, subtracting their defense total, and whatever's left over either gets reduced by damage reduction armor or force field or whatever, or super ability, and any leftover points come off your attributes. And the attributes are basically just functioning as your hit points. You don't have to worry about reducing your point total and calculating your attributes every single time. You do that in between combats and stuff. You don't do it during combat. So it's just very, very simple. So essentially all it is I set the target number as the narrator, and then you try and add up your attributes and your skills and your super abilities and try and beat it. And you've got two types of check. One is a skill check that adds points to your total, your adventure total, and the others are a power check, which take points away from your power point total. And at the end of the gaming session, however much points you've got left over, you can convert that into advancing your character by point buying and increasing your powers and your attributes. That's it. It's that simple. And most of the powers and stuff, I don't even put ranges or statistic bonuses or anything like that in it, because the check system is based on just D6s, and there's very little nuance involved in that. So like, it's really a game. And if you've played a lot of Supers games are really problem solving games. They're not straight up combat games and stuff like that. They can be like games like Heroes Unlimited and Mutants and Masterminds and things like that are like slightly less with Mutants and Masterminds, because Mutants and Masterminds have this, you get hit, your hero falls down, they're out of the action for 5 minutes, boom, they recover and they're back into the story 5 minutes later sort of thing, which is like, I didn't really like that about Mutants and Masterminds. With Palladium, it's very nitty gritty, very 1980s, lots of pouches, lots of guns, and the heroes get the shit kicked out of them and they get blown up and they die. And so it's a pretty brutal sort of game. I wanted something a little bit in between where there's that sort of problem solving, and if you go head to head with a superhuman against their own super ability, like if you're trying to match the speed of somebody who can run at supersonic speed, of course they're going to win, because that's their superpower. There's nobody better at it than them. They are superhuman. So you don't try and beat a speedster by outspeeding them. You look for their Achilles heel, their weakness. So it's a problem-solving game, and it's a game that rewards thinking. So every skill check you make that doesn't involve your powers actually adds points to your character advancement. If you rely only on your powers to muscle through every situation, your character doesn't actually advance very much, because you've spent all your experience total on using powers. And sometimes you have to use your powers to defend yourself against somebody who has vastly superior abilities, who's slamming you, and you've got to scramble and think, okay, how do I combine my skills and powers and stuff to mitigate this? Otherwise, I'm going to get pasted. So that's the vibe of this game, and the rest of it is however you want to play the Supers game. And a lot of the time, it's quite comedic. And I've included these minor abilities, which is mundane abilities that is something like that you'd find in the Tick comic. So it ranges from extreme superhuman godlike levels of power, like being able to like instantly transmit like Dragon Ball Z fighters from one position to another, but being able to do things in between, like you've traveled across that intervening distance, but you've traveled so fast that it's like you just teleported. But in actual fact, you were present in a quantum state the entire way. That's hyperspeed. You're in a quantum state, so you exist in all those different positions, achieving all those different things between here and there, like you were actually there, because you're just traveling at hyperspeed. Right? So that's level 6 godlike power. And then mundane level of power is your character can always call a taxi wherever they are in the world. Within 20 minutes, a taxi will arrive to pick them up and take them somewhere. Or, they always make a dramatic entrance. If they're trying to intimidate somebody and they're entering a room for the first time, they always succeed, because they always are super ability is, or they have perfect hair, or they have the ability to summon doves, or control houseflies. Really interesting non-player character, like minor superheroes, the sort of thing that you'd find in a Tick comic. So you got the Tick comic coexisting beside godlike superhumans like Superman and stuff. So it's well beyond the super level of the Palladium games sort of book, but incorporates that as well. And I just made it to be as flexible as possible, and have a game system that you can describe to somebody within a minute or two. Because it's designed to be picked. It's designed for anybody to watch the video, pass on the video, whoever watches the video now can play. They have all of the resources to play that they need in that one video that's accessible anywhere. And because it's open source, it's free for anybody to use, and anybody can make money by making supplements that complement or increase or complexify or add nuance to the base system. I got no problem with that. You know, if you want to make content for it, make money on the side, go for it. I don't own this. Nobody does. Nobody will, ever. It's free and accessible for anyone. And because it's a video format, it allows me to use techniques and things that you can never put into print, like animated sketches and things like that. Music, bits of media, and to describe what a super ability does. You don't have to describe it. You can just put a photo or put a little animated sequence. As much as I can possibly fit into there. So no print product could compete with it. And not only that, but it's editable. I can edit it because all the timestamps and stuff will be in the description, not actually in the video. If a section needs to be increased or decreased in size, I don't need to worry about, I just need to adjust the description of the video. I don't need to adjust anything other than that section of the video. So it allows you to make changes to it. So that's what I'm doing right now. And this big pile here of 21 pages is the 588 super abilities, which are going to be included in the system for you. 588 super abilities. So try and find me a supers game anywhere that's got that many. Because that's 20 years worth of playing supers games and being involved in forums and stuff where they've all contributed stuff. A lot of this is not accessible on the internet anymore. I had to go and use the Wayback Machine, the Internet Archive, just to go and find some of these resources, like the Subminers superpowers. You can't find it anywhere. And contacted my friend Marco when we were writing this stuff for Palladium Books back in the day. So yeah. Not much, Theo. I'm basically I'm just talking at the camera on a live stream and telling everybody what's going on with the super atomic open source gaming thing that I'm making for everyone. So yeah, you'll see me putting stuff on Twitter, which is basically just promoting and showcasing artwork. Because it's open source and completely free, I can't pay any artists or anything to do any artwork for it, so that's just completely off the table. So I'm making all the artwork and stuff using AI generation. And you're going to see some cutting edge AI generation, like the animated stuff that Dorse is doing for this, the animated images that you may see on my Discord server. If you go and check in there, absolutely go and join my Discord server. We're a thriving and pretty healthy community. Hey, James. Hey, Pickett. I have a theory that Quicksilver's power of super speed is actually a variation of Magneto's ability, but controls his ability to control gravitational forces. Just looks like speed. Could be. Yep, could be. So have you decided you're still doing? Yeah, I'm still doing monster lore. Yeah, like I said, I'm not changing the bulk of my content. Like the stuff that you're used to from me, reading short stories and monster ecology and stuff. Absolutely. It's just I'm not going to be doing stuff for Wizards of the Coast Hasbro. That's all. I'm just not supporting their company at all. And I do apologize to everyone. I have been it seems like I'm very political about it, but it's just this one particular task that needs to be done. And then once it's done, I'll stop talking about it and go back to all the stuff that we're used to. So I'm not covering Forgotten Realms and not covering a lot of the traditional D&D settings, but I'm covering a lot of alternate things. So I'll be covering a lot of, over the next month, you'll be seeing me talking about Palladium Books products, because I'm a big fan of Palladium. Always have been. It's my favorite RPG. So it's kind of weird that I do all of this stuff for Dungeons & Dragons when really Dungeons & Dragons has never really been my focus. And anybody who's familiar with my writing history in the gaming industry would be quite surprised that I'm not doing Palladium videos. But it's just that Palladium has been swamped by this mono focus on Dungeons & Dragons for so long. That would have been absolutely pointless making those sort of videos, because I would not have been able to make any money out of it. Now, on the other hand, I can. Because a lot of people are looking around for alternate systems, and a lot of people are going to go to Pathfinder and then realize that Pathfinder is actually really crunchy and quite an uptake. Like, it's quite a task to completely adapt to a new system if you've only ever played 5th edition. So my suggestion would be to go towards something which is a little bit more rules light, which is why I'm making this free resource for everybody to use to show you what a rules light system looks like, what a more narrative problem solving game looks like. Whereas Palladium is not rules light, it's very crunchy, but it's the first universal rule system, crunchy rule system that wasn't GURPS. GURPS was the first universal rule system that you can apply to any genre. So you can have GURPS Western, you can have GURPS Horror, you can have GURPS blah, blah, blah. Palladium's the same way. You can have Palladium Horror, you can have Palladium Super Spies, you can have Palladium Superpowers, you can have Palladium Post-Apocalyptic Mutant Animals. It's all included in it, but it's got a very nitty-gritty system that handles nuts and bolts combat and martial arts and stuff like that very well. And the bounded power level is within a certain limit that doesn't go over with the super's ability, for instance. So as a super-powered individual could operate just as well in the Palladium Fantasy world, for instance. Palladium Fantasy was one of their first products that they put out after like Recon and various others, but it was the first one that was the basis of the universal rule system. And it's a really good fantasy setting with them. You know, it's got the Wolfen Empire and the Kingdom of the Giants, Mount Nimro. It's got the Insoth jungles, Balgor wastelands. I know it pretty well. It's got the great woolly dragon, all sorts of stuff. So it's like D&D, but alternate D&D. So I'm going to be talking about Palladium Fantasy and show you what that's like. But again, I'm moving away from, because I did that survey of everybody and they said, like, we're not interested in game mechanics in your videos. It's boring. I switch off when I listen to that sort of stuff. Even people who play role-playing games were not interested in me talking about mechanics because it's like talking about paint drying, honestly. Unless you're an active role player who's developing and homebrewing your own stuff, talking about statistics of gaming, role-playing games is really boring for about 70% of my audience. So I'm sorry, the 30% who love that sort of stuff. Democracy has spoken, and this is my channel and I do what I want, and I'm sick and tired of talking about game mechanics anyway. I can make an RPG in 3 days, people. I've been talking about game mechanics for longer than most of you have been alive, so it's boring to me. It's boring. Like the level of conversation that you're bringing to me about game mechanics is back here in preschool. I'm at college professor level. You know, I'm talking about the nuances of, you know, random roll table synergies and things like that. I'm not interested in, you know, representative attributes and things like that. It's been done to death. The science of Dungeons and Dragons attributes are well-trodden paths that I'm not going to go back over again. And so I'm not going to talk about all those alternate systems and the rules. I'm just going to say it's rules light, it's rules heavy, it's medium, it's crunchy, and I'll describe what those terminologies mean. But as for the actual nuts and bolts of how the system works, I don't care. You know, all systems add a little bit of nuance to the game, but it's mostly the fluff text, as you call it. By the way, don't ever tell a YouTuber or a game designer that they're good at writing fluff text. We don't say fluff text. We say content. That's often the bit that's most important to us, not the game mechanics. I was just on James Raggi's live stream. He's the Lamentations of Flame Princess guy, and it's almost like if you have two geeks and you sit them down at the table, and the only thing we have in common in like movies we've watched or books we've read is like H.P. Lovecraft. That's it. And he's rattling off all these things which inspire him to write RPGs, and I haven't seen or read any of them. And I'm like, wow, I'm so uneducated on that aspect of the hobby, you know. But it's fine. You know, we could sit down and talk about H.P. Lovecraft till cows come home, because I've studied, you know, I've read like 3 different biologies of not autobiographies of the guy. He didn't write any autobiographies, but he wrote extensively all his letters and stuff while he was active. He only lived till he was like 46, I think, something like that, back in the 1920s or 30s. So he was racist for sure, but everybody was back then, and I don't really judge him on that. I mean, what's the point in going, yes, you're reading something from the 1920s, of course it's going to be racist, you know. It was a different world back then. We can't judge them by the same principles. We can, but are you going to throw out everything from that time period? I don't think so. So, yeah, a lot of important things that we use and abuse today, including medicine, came through very dodgy channels, you know, very nasty places. But we don't throw the information out. All right, let's catch up on some of the comments here. I actually have a couple of Palladium books that a friend gave me before he moved away. By the way, let me know if my sound is cutting out at all. There is a storm going on at the moment, and although it doesn't look like it, I'm in quite a level of discomfort. So at the moment, my pain level is if you just got socked in the guts by a professional fighter, so hard that they bruise your spine, that's how much pain I'm in. So just let you know. And yeah, so essentially those videos where I talk about lore and stuff while you go to sleep at night, that I like making those videos and being more narrative and not being tied into having to research everything specifically about the Forgotten Realms. Like that's why I avoided things like Eberron and that sort of stuff, because the fandom was really fucking pedantic. Like they just really, really were on my case, and I got a lot of flack from people who like stuck with one edition of Eberron, and there was quite a lore change from one to the next. Like Baker really, really changed Eberron a lot from one edition to the next. And I was getting a lot of flack from people who were saying, no, that's not right, that's not correct. And it's like, yes, it is for the most moderns. Like it all got updated. You didn't, it did. So what do you expect me to do? Report on your version that you've stuck here, not moved on? It's like, no. And I was sick and tired of just like the aggression that they were throwing at me. So I was like, you know what? I don't need to make that content. I don't care. I don't even play Eberron. I don't even like the setting. So why am I making videos for you that you're just going to shit all over me about it? It's like, I'm not an expert on it, obviously. I'm trying to learn. And that's why I made all the D&D videos in the first place, as I was making miniatures and stuff. And people asked me about the monsters while I was making miniatures, and I started talking about the ecology and stuff. First, it was just off the top of my head what I knew from my brain, and then I started actually researching and doing all the fact checking and Wikipedia and going back to the original sources and stuff, and that's what I became known for. But that was you asked me to do that. I didn't do that myself. That wasn't my intention when I first created the channel. That was you, feedback from my audience telling me what you wanted to see. And now 70% of you have told me that you want to see audiobooks, short stories. They want to see more creative writing from me. Fine, fantastic. They want to see different game settings and things, and exploring different worlds and things. They want to see more about the Sage character and his multiversal travels. They want to see modern games and different world settings that are entirely not Dungeons and Dragons, But they also want content that they can use in their games. So I will describe the Outer Planes and things like that, because Hasbro doesn't own those. Wizards of the Coast doesn't own the concept of Hades. Olympus. All of those Outer Planes aren't owned by them. Maybe Mechanus could possibly be, but I haven't seen any trademarked name of Mechanus. Have you? So there's a lot of shit that Hasbro would and Wizards of the Coast would have you believe that they own. They do not. They do not. They only really own the D&D brand logo. So don't put those in your videos, kids. Because as soon as you do, they own it. Read the fan content policy. Read it. They're a nasty, nasty company. Yeah. So to let you know, here's an example of, this is the Mighty Glue Stick mascot that I made for my podcasty thing, and this is me basically podcasting right now. So I made this from scratch, from a sketch. If you're on Facebook, you'll be able to see the entire process where I made this. But this is what I do. I'm a sculptor. I make this stuff. Like, I'm a sculptor. Hello, look at the thing. So this is what I started out doing, crafting and sculpting. And that was my focus that I started. That's why my channel is called The Mighty Glue Stick. This is a glue stick. A glue stick. Whoop. A not very well glued on glue stick. So here you can see the motivation behind the glue stick. Why the glue stick? Because my method of making dungeons and stuff, dungeon terrain, is just gluing cardboard and printed out pieces of paper that I've cut out. It was the simplest, because I hate painting cardboard because it warps. So I just glued everything together. I just used a printer and printed out the thing, and then gave it elevation by cutting the image and then sticking it onto just cardboard from cardboard boxes. So you don't have to spend money on, sorry to say this, Stephen Picorni, Dwarven Forge and really expensive terrain. I mean, obviously, if you can afford that sort of stuff, it looks awesome. But, it's very bulky. It's very expensive. A lot of it has very limited uses. Like, how many times are you going to use a castle, for instance? I'm not knocking it, but there's cheap alternatives that you can do for free. I mean, if you live in a country which has got parallel importing laws with China, this only costs $1, and it lasts for quite a lot of terrain. And all of the, like, I use a refillable ink fountain printer that can print thousands of pages quite cheaply. You just refill from an ink bottle, and then I just cut out those printed pages, and then I stick them onto bits of cardboard that I've recycled out of the bin, out of the recycle bin. So I'm literally recycling old trash and turning it into D&D terrain. That was what I did. What? Good grief. I'm gonna have to get some moderators in here at some point. I think it's on. It should be on subscriber only chat, right? So those of you who are making weird comments, what are you doing? It's not like I'm not going to go back over the chat later on and find out exactly what you said. Trust me, I've got no problem muting people off my channel. Yeah, for those of you, hello to the folks over in Israel and stuff who I was talking to on my channel, my Discord channel before. Thanks for chatting with me this morning while I was counting up the superpowers. It was an interesting chat. Would you ever do any terrain videos again? Yes, I absolutely would. Tell me to. Ask me to. And I will. Put comments in the comment section. Hey man, can you make some terrain? Hey man, can you make a castle? Hey man, can you make a dungeon door? Hey man, can you sculpt a gelatinous cube? Hey man, can you make a void dragon miniature? I will. I will for you. Absolutely. I've got no problem with that. I could be talking and sculpting right now, for a stream that goes for several hours. Brute force construction projects. Yeah, it does look like a dum-dum round from Who Framed Roger Rabbit, and it's kind of, as soon as I started making it, I was like, oh, that does look like a dum-dum round. Like, if you don't know what a glue stick is, it does look like a dum-dum round from Who Framed Roger Rabbit, for sure. And it does look like me deliberately because it is me. Yeah. And it looks angry because he's like, rah! Somebody asked me if I ever did animated animation of my sculptures. I never have. I've never actually tried. Maybe I should. That would certainly be interesting. I'd be like the Z Bradshaw of animated, actual physical animated videos. How bizarre would that be? So instead of a VTuber, it still would be a VTuber if I'm represented by an animated physical character. I suppose it wouldn't even need to be animated. It would just be different sculpts of the same thing making different expressions that I just have the static image down the bottom of the thing while I'm narrating something. Would you be interested in that? I could do that. Hey, thanks, Ben C. Super chat, keep trucking. Keep on trucking. Thank you. I do really appreciate those super chats, particularly this month. I'm not going to lie, I've lost about $1,000 in revenue over January. It's going to hit me in February. Because it's always the month after that you get paid on YouTube. And this is what I do for a living. So yeah, not making videos and all this disruption to the industry has affected me. But I'm in a very privileged position to have the audience and stuff that I have, which means that I can ride this out and be very activist and very angry online and stuff and get away with it. But other channels, no. And I've seen a lot of channels which have sprung up around this controversy who are not going to last. I can tell you right now, those channels are going to be bye-bye once this OGL thing is over. So, yeah. If you are a channel that started out and got your audience and got monetized through the OGL drama, excellent. But now is the time to pivot away from that with your content. Do not rely on drama posting to carry your channel. And listen to your audience telling you what they want to see from you. Like, ask them and do what they ask. If it's something you enjoy, it's got to be something that you're passionate about. Otherwise, you'll burn out. And don't put on a false, pleasant attitude or something like that. That'll burn you out too. Don't put on a character which is different from yourself. That'll burn you out too. Don't try and make content that you're not interested in. That'll absolutely burn you out real quick. Don't take on too many projects. It'll burn you out. Piercer and Roper animated video? Possible. A P-tuber. Okay, we're never saying Peach ever again. Hey, Matt Storino. No problem. Thanks, Comic Nut. Keep on rocking, AJ. There's plenty of video ideas like how I'd love your take on White Martians from DC Comic. Sure. I haven't actually read that one. I can talk about all sorts of stuff like Star Wars and World of Warcraft. Not World of Warcraft. Well, yes, World of Warcraft lore. I can talk about that till the cows come home as well because I played that for a while. EVE Online, I played that for a while. Anything Marvel superheroes, I know a lot of, up to a certain point where I stopped collecting comic books. Because the comic book industry is very different these days. And also my pet peeve of like Wonder Man not being in the Avengers lineup. Oh, it annoys me so much. And now we see the Blue Devil, who's in the Swamp Thing TV series of all things. What the fuck has the Blue Devil got to do with the Swamp Thing? I was so shocked to see that arrive, and this is on, what was I watching it on? I was on like 3 News, so it's probably a really old series now, and I don't think it continued for longer than a series or two. But like, the Blue Devil was one of the comic books I collected, you know? Modern comics are trash. They're probably owned by Hasbro, that's why. Shots fired. So, Hasbro's Objective. Very basically, if for any of you who don't really know anything about this whole OGL drama and why we're all so anti-Hasbro, and I'm saying Hasbro because Wizards of the Coast is Hasbro. It's not different. It's not separate from the two. They're the same thing, okay? Hasbro wants to sell you nothing for as much as they can, and you don't own it. That's their objective. They're trying to destroy print products. They have been for 4 years. First, they produced a bunch of books that were really badly printed, and then they sent out replacements for those, right? But then think about the Hidozi controversy, where they put this deliberately controversial information in there which caused social media to go, rah, racism, because the people who scream racism on social media don't actually do anything about it. They just scream about it on social media like that's making a difference. It's not. You're just marketing the fucking product for the company. That's all you're doing. That's why they put it in there. But the second objective, their real objective, because notice when they get caught with their pants down, how long it took them to respond. But look how quickly they responded to the Hidozi controversy. They were ready. It was planned. The entire thing was orchestrated. Why? Because they printed a book that was obsolete the moment they printed it. Did they do product recalls? Are you able to send your old Hidozi book back and get a properly printed one with the correct information? No, because they want you to use the electronic version and say, oh, the electronic version is much better because we can update it with new content whenever we like. Yeah, but you don't own it. Look at have you got any of the resources from 4th edition? Nope. They're all gone, all deleted, all gone. So you own nothing if you if you pay for an electronic product from Hasbro. You don't own it, and they'll take it away, and they'll sell you the next thing and the next thing. Then you're on a cycle of, because when Wizards of the Coast took over D&D from TSR, they did the survey. This is a tweet from Matt Colville, by the way. You can go and check. Go and absolutely subscribe to Matt Colville on everything. So Wizards of the Coast did a survey of the actual D&D audience because they're notorious for not doing any feedback whatsoever on any of these products. So they don't care what you think of Ravenloft. They don't care what you think of Strixhaven. They don't do any market surveys about that sort of stuff. It just goes into a black hole. Gone. And they just produce the next thing and the next thing. And their objective is to destroy print products because the print products cost them money. Making electronic stuff doesn't really cost them anything in material goods. I mean, the upside is that not filling they're not wasting all of our resources on plastic shit that goes into the ocean and into landfill, which is what the Nerf blaster and the My Little Pony D&D set, all that sort of crap that they're going to be pouring out that they've already invested in for this movie. So don't buy any of the merchandise for the D&D movie. Absolutely. Go and watch the movie if you want to. The money is already spent. But don't go and watch it in the first 2 weeks is all I'm asking. Go and watch it afterwards. And they'll see the box office numbers are absolutely plummeted. And then it'll be a cult classic afterwards. And absolutely stream it, pirate it, do whatever you want. I don't care. Just don't go first week please. Just hold off for a week or two. And don't buy any of the crap products that they're producing for it, and that will sink Hasbro, and they'll be out of the picture. D&D will then be defunct for a couple of years, and it'll be picked up by somebody else. But when Wizards of the Coast did this survey, and they looked at the audience, and they said, okay, how many of them picked up second edition D&D? Hardly anybody. Why? Because they're all still playing AD&D. Because they think and this is the fallacy that they want to sell you, is that in order for the hobby to survive, we must sell more products. The parent company must survive to produce more products, to get more audience members, to get more people playing the game. We're the thing that draws people in. Wrong. False. Not true. The community was absolutely thriving. The hobby was thriving. More people than ever were playing the game. They just weren't buying any new books. So they produced third edition and promised everybody, oh, it's a return to the dungeon. They were directly marketing all those people that were playing AD&D and saying, oh, it's a return to the dungeon. None of this woke crap, you know, from AD&D. None of these weird errata rules and stuff like that. We're going back to basics, brah. Same rinse, lather, repeat they did with from 4th edition to 5th edition. Oh, well, we're not doing all that strange strategic, video gamey type thing, which we're clearly trying to turn it into an electronic medium. We're going back to old school. We're trying to recapture the audience. It's the same playbook, and it's even worse this time. So we must sink that company because they're bad. They're bad. I mean, look at what they did with Magic the Gathering. Seriously. And did they replace any of your Spelljammer books with the misprint, with the deliberately inserted racist stuff about the Hadozi in there? Did they replace those books? No. They had no intention of doing that. They just did it to erode your confidence in print products. So here's the thing. Latest WizKids have just put out Onslaught. DM Johnny on his YouTube channel. He's an old school D&D YouTuber. You should definitely go and check him out. He's one of the inspirations for me becoming a YouTuber in the first place. He has got this new Onslaught set from WizKids, and it's got good miniatures in there, and it's got the rule set, and it's got some interesting stuff, like it's got some rules about elevation and things what you don't find in the minis, D&D minis game, or the like Frostgrave, or I don't think even Mork Borg has got stuff like that. I haven't really got into Mork Borg because it's an old school revival type game, and I'm just not into those sort of mechanics. But Onslaught, if you don't have access to the internet, and you just get the box set of Onslaught, and then you open up the rulebook and read the rulebook, it doesn't make any sense. It doesn't work. It wasn't play tested. It doesn't actually work. It's confusing and wrong in certain places. So they printed and put out a product that hadn't been play tested that doesn't actually work. So you go online, and then you get the errata corrected rules book that they can change and add and all that sort of stuff. So it's like, and that's, to their credit, that's free. You can go and get those rules. So if you don't need the rule book from the box set, and you don't necessarily need the miniatures from the box set, because most of us have got like all these other miniatures, and you can proxy in other things in the thing, then why do you even need to buy the physical product at all? You don't. And they're really setting it up so that you can play a virtual tabletop game using these rules, because they're trying to shift everybody from physical products to electronic products. So they're deliberately manufacturing obsolete and broken products just to destroy your confidence in those sort of products from the company. It's crazy. Moonring, how do you send me a friend request on Discord? You just send me a message request, and you can click friend request. I'm not here to describe how Discord works. Hey, Stanchgate. Bree is fantastic. She's in the chair right here, sound asleep, because it's a stormy, rainy, horrible, miserable day outside, and I'm suffering from it too. If I do get a bit aggressive, it's because of the level of pain I'm in. Do you want to bootleg the movie on Discord? I'm not going to say anything that's going to incriminate me on a public medium, thanks. I know it's late. I'm actually, this is a pre-live stream. I'm going to be doing a live stream on Wally DM and Wally DM's channel with Dungeon Dad, Esper the Bard, Wally DM, Fred Wheeler from How to D&D and me, and we're going to be talking about some classic monsters and how to use them in your game. Hey, Mr. Al. Don't hold back, why don't you? Yeah, Esper's really cool. Yeah, I'm not going to get caught out by Hasbro, that's for sure. Hasbro is so stupid. They're so stupid. They honestly, they have no, like, if they had any sort of market sense whatsoever, they would have surveyed and got to know us and realized how incredibly dangerous we are to a corporation. We are the black hats. We are, our catchphrase for this whole revolution movement has been Hail Hydra, because they cannot stop us. You cut me down, 2 more will take my place. We own social media. They've been relying on us to market their products for them, and we're the ones that drove them to get a $1.3 billion out of that product in the first place, that brand. That brand is nothing without us. So they bought into their own bullshit, absolutely, and now they're getting called on it real hard. And all we have to do now is just do nothing. We just don't buy from Hasbro. That's all we need to do now. We can stop talking about it. It's already in the social media mainstream. I mean, Fox News and places were reporting about this sort of stuff. Gizmodo carried the story. Linda Cordega, thank you very much. Their coverage of this has been absolutely fantastic, and well-deserved praise and claim. Dungeon Dad, Indestructible Boy, got a lot of flack for it. Some new channels that popped up, Crit Crab and Monster Shorts, or Shorts, D&D Shorts. Yeah, he got a lot of flack for this as well. And it really burnt these guys out, because we're YouTubers, we're not daily reporters. We're not reporters, okay? We're not mainstream media. So people like slamming us for, like, what are the sources of your leaks and stuff? Well, you don't ask reporters from the New York Times that sort of shit, so why are you coming after us? New York Times, another corporation that needs to go bye-bye. They've been scum for a long time. As much as I love Matt Colville's dulcimer tones, do you think he would let you read lore for his world? Because that would be awesome. I would absolutely love to. But he is standoffish in media because he's got a really huge audience. So you'll see he doesn't allow like comments on his post on Twitter and stuff like that. And yeah, he doesn't tolerate people talking about his appearance and things like that as well. So yeah, he's got a healthy distance from his audience, I would say, but he's also very interactive in certain ways. But like, you can't submit an article to Arcadia. You can only be invited to write for Arcadia. And because I'm not a print writer, I'm not recognized as a writer in the D&D, in the role-playing scene per se, because I don't have a lot of products, print products under my belt, because that's not what I do. I've got a lot of associated writing credits, like I've written in a lot of things that have come out with other people who ask me to write for them, and I'm like, yeah, sure, I'll be a guest writer for your Kickstarter, whatever. That's no problem, but I haven't actually written anything myself, like a full thing. So now I am. So yeah, I need to introduce myself to everybody and say, hi, I've actually been writing for the last 20 years. I was first published in Riften number 23. Let me go grab that for you. Oh, so here's the Riften number 23 from Palladium. I submitted this article to them about 3 years before it was published. And this first printing was 2003, so I wrote this in 2000. So I've been writing for 23 years. And where is it? Here it is. The Blade Mage. So it was quite a fairly extensive, well thought out, play tested. It's got a complete system with all the magic, all the combat system, all of the lore and stuff in the background. So I put in a fair amount of work for that. It was a not insubstantial amount of work. Even talked about the age of lost magic and the time of 1,000 magics. So that was a fair few pages. And they paid me. It was really cool. It was my first paid writing gig from Palladium. Hey, thanks, McFine. Or McFean. Too bad Wizard of the Coast is making VTT seem like the enemy. You can have great experiences that way. They're their approach is making the whole thing seem toxic. Yeah, because everything they touch becomes toxic. There's nothing wrong with VTTs, for sure. And remember, those of you who were joining me in Discord chat earlier on, like months and months ago, when I was talking about VTT, particularly with the Tilt 5 system coming out and stuff, and the augmented reality stuff that's coming out, I said that there's going to be a major shift in the way our hobby is operating. And here it is. It actually arrived a year earlier than I thought it would, but here it is. So this is all maneuvering to become a physical product less electronic gamified medium that Hasbro is trying to completely dominate. Trying to get rid of the original open gaming license is going to run them into all sorts of problems, because that would set some sort of a legal precedent that would impact the software producing and licensing. So we're talking Google, Oracle, big companies that will turn around and go, "Excuse me," to Hasbro. And at the moment, Hasbro is bleeding and blood is in the water, and the other corporations are circling. They're just waiting for the quarterly reports, and then they're going to dismantle Hasbro. Short trading still exists, and I'm imagining that Hasbro is going to get short traded into nothing. They're going to get stripped of resources, and their staff and stuff are just going to disperse to the other toxic shitholes that corporations are. Hey, Morgan. Does the coalition states have any merit in their position? Yes. Yes. From a human point of view. From a, like if I can only be a human and talk about from a human's point of view, but if I was suddenly transported through a dimensional portal to Rift's Earth, I would be a DB, right? So I'd be a dimensional being and, a second-class citizen or a third-class citizen as far as the coalition states are concerned. I would have the privilege of looking like a human, from that contemporary time period, but I wouldn't be. So I would be, as soon as they found out, like if a Psy Stalker and a bunch of dog boys went by, they'd be like, "You seem out of place." No, long live Emperor Prosek. Yay. Why am I in Chi-Town? It would be totally bizarre, but I'd be a DB, yeah. So good question. We'll cover that. Have I ever reached out to Ed Greenwood? Not directly, no. I once asked somebody to have him bless my dice for me via video, but I've never actually talked directly to Ed Greenwood. I have talked in a live stream, and he knows my name, so he knows who I am, and he's probably talked to George Krashos and Eric Boyd, the real sages of the Forgotten Realms, the old school, the big fish, the ones who like I would be like, I am not worthy. I've talked to those guys, but I haven't talked to Ed personally. I'd love to meet Ed and just shake his hand. Say thank you. Orange, green, red. Thank you. Test successful. Thank you very much. What are you guys talking about? Do you think you could cover World of Darkness? Yeah, absolutely. Like there's a lot of different places that I can just go and visit and do one or two videos, do a synopsis or do a very specific thing. Like, I'm not going to gravitate towards Pathfinder, but just because everybody wants me to. I don't want to gravitate towards Pathfinder. It's too D&D adjacent. That wound is too fresh, And also there's a lot of people who are flocking to Pathfinder right now because they're used to this idea of there being a monopoly in the market, but there shouldn't be. And a lot, and I'd say 90% of you are not going to be playing Pathfinder in a year or two. You're going to be playing something else. Or you'll still be going back and playing 5th edition D&D. I don't care. As long as the task gets done and Hasbro gets killed, I don't care. Mission accomplished. I don't care if you're currently playing D&D with your physical books at home. No problem. Just stop buying new products. And a lot of people have. Galarian may need me, but it's going to get a lot of coverage from other YouTubers as well. So I'm not jumping on that bandwagon. There's plenty of other RPGs. Right, I'm going to log off and go and deal with my physical needs. I need some more pain meds. But I will be logging back on again with the live stream with Wally DM. Go and check out his channel. He's got it set up already, so you can just sit. It's ready, teed up, ready to go. A tourist guide to Blank series would be good. Yeah, that's what I'd love to do. It's like, welcome to Galarian. Here we are in the sunny blah, Welcome to Mystara. So yeah, look forward to that. And thanks for joining me in this impromptu live stream. As I mentioned, if you're just joining me, the start of this video was me talking about Super Atomic, which is the free open source game system that I'm going to be releasing as a video resource. It's not going to be a print resource for everyone to use. So you're going to see me talking about that a lot, talking about superpowers a lot of stuff on Discord, a lot of collaboration with other people who are sending me in contributions to it, because it's a community project. It's not just me making it. Well, it's me writing it, but it's also being contributed by voice acting talent and stuff from across the sphere. All the people who I've helped out with doing little voice segments and stuff and collabs on their videos, now I'm calling in the favors. Thanks, Don. Ever played or do you play Traveller? Yeah, I love Traveller. Classic Traveller, not the modern Traveller, not Mongoose Traveller. Mongoose Traveller is fine, but original Traveller was actually innovative. And the way that I'm handling the attributes and stuff as damage totals in Super Atomic is very similar to Traveller, original Traveller. And also character generation is very similar to Traveller as well. So yeah, look forward to that. Thanks, Moonring. Ixazarchittle. There you go. I said it. Okay. I'll catch you later, everyone. I'll see you on the next stream.